Thank you so much for staying with us. This beautiful lady is Dr. Jennifer Ashton. She is the senior health correspondent for ABC News National and a practicing OB-GYN. In her best-selling book, Your Body Beautiful, Clock-Stopping Secrets to Stay Healthy, Strong, and Sexy in Your 30s, 40s, and Beyond. I am beyond. Please help me welcome Dr. Jennifer Ashton. I'm well beyond.
We are all a little beyond, I think, and I really encourage everyone to kind of sit in the front row. I was always a front row geek when I was in school, and I will tell you, you get a totally different experience when you're up here, so don't be bashful to kind of move up and live on the edge, so to speak. As you guys know, the theme today of this incredible expo is stress, and ways to reduce it, ways to identify it, ways to avoid it, and all of that is so important in our everyday health. And I promise you, you will leave this hour armed with potentially life-changing, actionable things that you can do starting today and spread like wildfire to your family and friends. Some of them are little things, some of them might be massive things, but I can tell you that they are easy to do and they are life-changing. But before we get to those actionable, positive tips, I think we have to start by identifying where we are right now. And my father was in the Air Force years ago, in Thailand and Vietnam, actually, and he once told me something that I think is so relatable to everyday life, which is in jungle training, flight training school, they actually teach the pilots how to survive if their plane gets shot down in the jungle. And the first thing that they teach these high-powered rock star fighter pilots is you cut your parachute, you find a tree, you put your back up to that tree, and you memorize everything in the semicircle around you. So what is that like? That's like learn our environment, right? So before you can make a plan about how to save your life, in that case, get yourself out of the jungle in one piece, you have to take an assessment of where you are at that given time, even if it is a bad place. So where are we right now when it comes to women's health or our overall health and wellness? We are in critical condition, and that means you, me, my family. And how did we get there? Well, we have a severely jeopardized medical system where at the root of it, the doctor-patient relationship is in critical condition. And I would like everyone sitting here to close your eyes for a second and think about when the last time it was that you had an empowering, fulfilling experience with a healthcare provider, where you walked out feeling better mentally or physically than when you came in. You're laughing, which I'm taking it as not a good sign, right? Never? Anyone else say never? Okay. So as they said in Apollo 13, Houston, we have a problem, right? Now, I try to hold the medical community responsible for doing our large part in trying to fix that. Some things are under our control, some things are not. So what I want everyone in this room to leave with are skills and tools that you can take over as pilot of that plane and say, okay, it is what it is. Here's how I'm going to make my experiences the next time I go to a healthcare provider better for me. Because truly, when I tell you your life depends on it, right? Your life depends on it. And whether it's reducing your stress or picking up something that could in fact be life-threatening or anything in the spectrum of that, it is important. So why are we in critical condition? Any ideas? Well, what do you have, 4 minutes with a doctor, right? Don't you love that? That's nice. 4 minutes, you're waiting, you can't get an appointment. Maybe you don't have a regular doctor who doesn't know you from Adam or Eve. You know, you see a different person every time. So how are they supposed to keep us well when they don't know us? And I mean know the whole person, not just a body part, okay? As you heard, I'm an OB-GYN, so I'm a women's health specialist. I don't just treat the uterus. I don't just treat the little ovaries. I actually treat the whole woman. Because last time I checked, those ovaries and the uterus are usually connected to the rest of the woman. So that's important, right? But that doesn't happen today for a lot of reasons. Another big reason that it doesn't happen today, other than the time that we don't have and that your doctor doesn't have to spend with you and it's impossible to get an appointment and so on and so forth, is the fact that in Western medicine, our society and the way I was taught to be a doctor at Columbia University, one of the best medical schools in the world, is fixated on treating disease, not maintaining wellness. Backwards, in my opinion, okay? If you go to Eastern medicine, the other parts of the world, we are called wellness providers, healers. You know, we see people when they're feeling great, not when they're sick. Who is at their best when they're sick, right? Not me, certainly. So we need to shift our paradigm in this part of the world as to how we use trained medical professionals and make it more about maintaining health and wellness and not about treating disease, right? But that's like a loftier goal. I want you to again think about the, like you're saying, the never satisfying experience you've had with a doctor. And I want you to take a look at something and tell me if this looks familiar to you guys.
Hi, I'm Dr. Cooney. Nice to meet you, Allison. Nice to meet you, Ben.
Nice to meet you.
As you know, childbirth is a laborious process. I parallel it to an interstate freeway. It goes on and on and on until 9 months, and then you stop. The sperm fertilizes the egg, causing a zygote to form in the uterus, implanting in. Gestation occurs. You get larger and larger and larger. I will divide up your 40 weeks into trimesters. So the first trimester, which you are at right now at 8 weeks, is very important. So I need to know if you're on any medications whatsoever.
No.
No. Have you had any other pregnancies?
No.
Any viable pregnancies?
No.
Any miscarriages?
No.
Any abortions?
No.
Okay. Do you smoke cigarettes?
No.
Do you smoke cigarettes? I need to know, or I will not be your doctor.
I don't.
You drink alcohol?
No.
No?
Uh-uh.
No?
No.
Huh? Do you do any,
Hey, player. What up, player? Like,
I mean, this is okay, but don't.
Okay.
Don't.
Okay.
This is okay. Don't challenge me on my knowledge. Okay?
Okay.
Because in a doctor-patient relationship, to be healthy, one should not ask the doctor too many questions.
Okay.
You got that, Ben? You're not the star of the show.
I know, I'm sorry, just go on.
Who is the star of this show among the three of us? The patient.
Alice.
Right. We are the supporting player.
Okay, so that was the scene from that movie Knocked Up. Obviously very funny, but kind of realistic, right? How many times have you sat in a doctor's office and you get asked yes, no answer questions? Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. And you try to answer and the doctor says, don't lie to me. You're telling me that. I mean, what is it, an interrogation? This happens all the time, and I think that's why we're kind of laughing, is because we know that there is so much truth to it. But he said something at the end, which I think in our dream world should be true, which is that the patient should be the star of the show, right? And I want to give you guys some ideas today about how to leave and be the stars of your own lives when it comes to fitness and sleep and reducing stress and nutrition. The basics. They are the basics of the foundation because I believe they're so important, right? But before we get to those tips and how you can be the Karl Malone, who is Karl Malone? But anyway, no, I'm just kidding. I want to share with you a story that I think, again, speaks to this crisis that we're in and really brings up why there is a call to action to all of you, especially to women. And if you're not a woman sitting in this room, you probably know a woman, you probably love a woman, whether she's your wife, your sister, your daughter, your mother. So this should matter to you too. And it's a story about what can happen when that doctor-patient relationship is a disaster, and what can happen when it goes well. And it's about one of my patients, who I will call Paula, it's not her real name, who is 50 years old. She's a registered nurse. She's been my patient for several years, and recently she was the primary caregiver for her dying mother, despite the fact she has 3 other siblings. You know how there's usually one in a family dynamic that's going to play that role? So it was my patient, Paula. And she made an appointment to see me, and when I found out she was coming in, my office manager said, Paula's coming in. And I said, well, she was just here recently for a visit. Is she having a problem? And she said, yeah, she has a weird rash, and she really isn't feeling well. Now, remember that I mentioned to you what my specialty is, right? I'm a gynecologist. So oftentimes, I'm the only doctor a woman will see for the year, right? That's how it is for most of us. And so you should love your gynecologist, not just like her or him, not just tolerate them. You should love them. And when you hear the end of this story, you'll see why. Hopefully, you have a good one. So I said, okay, well, I don't know what's going on, but I'm happy to see her. So she comes in, and because she's an existing patient, she goes right into my exam room. She's sitting there, still with her clothes on, looking awful. Hair's a mess, no makeup, looks like she hasn't slept more than 20 minutes in a month. I said, what's going on? And she said, well, my mom just passed away 6 weeks ago. And I had known her mom's whole story, so I knew that she had been sick, and I knew what was going on. So after I told her how sorry I was to hear that, I said, well, so then what happened? So she said, well, let me tell you how I've been feeling for the last month. I have these pains in my neck. I have pain in my stomach. I have a headache. I have no energy to do what I was doing when I was taking care of my mom. I was like Superwoman. The list went on and on and on. I said, Paula, I'll do some blood work just to make sure there's not something else going on. But you know, I don't think this is a GYN problem. She said, no, I don't either. I mean, as a matter of fact, I went to my internist, and he told me I should consider getting Botox. Botox. I said, do you have a sweating problem? Like, I thought that was, you know, sometimes we give Botox for sweat. No, he didn't mean that. He meant it the way we all think he meant it. Like, I don't feel well. Well, maybe just put some needles in your face and you'll feel a lot better. So I said, Paula, you know what? Why don't you, let's draw your blood, come into my office, I'm going to talk to you in there. So she comes into my office, and I said, if you opened up a medical textbook that talked about reactive depression, there would be a picture of you next to it. What you're feeling is appropriate. You just lost your mother. And depression is not, there should be no stigma about it. If you had high blood pressure, you would treat it. Well, you're depressed. And you're appropriately depressed, and all of your symptoms, head to toe, go along with depression. And she said, that's kind of what I thought, but when my other doctor told me I should get Botox, I really didn't know what to think. And I said, well, I think it's appropriate you're depressed. It's only been 6 weeks, you lost your mom. And she said, you're gonna give me a prescription for Prozac, right? And I said, no, actually I'm not. What I'm gonna suggest that you do, and it's a lot harder for you, it's a lot harder for me than writing out a prescription, which takes me 10 seconds. I said, have you ever gone to a spin class? And she said, no, I haven't. I said, well, I want to tell you about this spin class that I go to, and I want you to try it. They get 70 people in a room, they light some candles, they turn off the lights, they play this great music, and for 45 minutes you sweat your brains off, and you will leave there feeling better. And we know that exercise releases these feel-good endorphins, and when you go with a group class and you sign up and you're gonna pay a little bit for the class, you cannot back out, right? You won't back out, because you're signed up and you gotta go. If it's a matter of doing something at your house, like all of us have the laundry holders in our house, you know, the exercise machines that hold the laundry, that's real easy to walk right by. This you're not gonna walk right by because you're gonna sign up and you're gonna go. Try it for 3 weeks, okay? Because I do have a limit. Reactive depression for 6 weeks or 8 weeks is appropriate after you lose a loved one. If it starts to go on 6 months and there start to be changes in the brain, then I might recommend that you take some medication, but not now. She leaves that day, she signs up for the spin class. She goes to one, she goes to another, she goes to a third spin class. Then we get a phone call in the office. And I'm thinking it's either gonna be a really good call or a really bad call. And she said, Dr. Ashton, you changed my life. I feel like a different person. So I said, Paul, I'm so happy. That is amazing. She goes, I went 3 times a week. For 2 weeks, I've lost 2 pounds each week. I feel mentally, spiritually uplifted when I come out of there. I said, that's amazing. Let's go together. So the following weekend, we run into each other at the spin class. She tells me that after the first night of her going to this class, she had a dream. And in her dream, her mother came to her. And her mother said, Paula, I'm okay. You can let me go. I'm in a good place. And she said once her mother heard that her mother was okay, she was able to get to that spin class. And it was like, she looked at me before we went in there and she said, it's almost like my mother told me she wanted me in that spin class. So listen, whatever you believe, that is an example of the mind-body connection. That's an example of the power of a doctor-patient relationship when you have a healthcare provider that knows the whole you and not just a body part and has the time and the desire to get at the root cause of what is causing your stress and your physical symptoms and to address it appropriately, safely, and holistically. And after hearing that, and then, by the way, you want to hear something really weird? In that spin class that we went to together, guess what the last song the instructor played was? Stairway to Heaven. Could you die? I mean, like goosebumps, right? So I think we need to remember Paula's story and remember because that could be any of us. And it tells us how important it is to listen to our bodies, to listen to our spirits, to nurture both, and to do so with a partner. And it doesn't have to be your doctor. It would be great if it were your doctor. But it could be your friend, it could be your relative, it could just be someone who feels the same way you do. But as we just heard at the end of Hannah's speech, you don't have to do it alone. But it is important. So I want to get to making you guys the stars of some areas in your life. And I want to talk about fitness. She said something at the end of her talk last hour about getting out of your comfort zone. This is me, out of my comfort zone, way out. Way, way, way out. It was my first triathlon that I did 2.5 years ago. And I want to talk about how you guys can reach your fitness goals and be a star in fitness, even if you're sitting there going, not gonna happen, move on to the next, move on to sleep, I'm a good sleeper, like something like that. I have to admit and confess, full disclosure, I have always loved exercise. I was an athlete when I was in high school. I've always felt great mentally and physically doing exercise. And because of the way things work in this world, I married someone who hates exercise. Hates it as much as I love it. And when I say if I weren't working and weren't with my family, what would I be doing? I'd be either outside exercising or at a gym somewhere for just hours after hours. My kids will say, Mom, you do realize you're addicted, right? It's a true addiction. And I do actually, I have come to terms with that in the last couple of years, that it is an addiction, and not all addictions are bad ones. Anyone can potentially become bad, but this is an addiction for me. So a couple of years ago, I felt like I wanted a little challenge. And I think it's important for all of you guys, sit where you are right now and just take an assessment, give yourself a grade of, in the last month, A, B, C, D, E, or F, grade your fitness activity, or how fit do you think you are? Anyone think they're an A? B? Oh, yay, B. Okay, good. What about C? Okay, a little more C's. Any F's? Okay. We can change that immediately, right? And I don't know if you heard the last talk, but a lot of what Hannah said from her experience on The Biggest Loser, we're going to continue on a more medical lifestyle basis, but the decision starts here, and it can occur at this moment in time. And the story that I want to share with you about how I push myself out of my comfort zone is, on my level, one thing, but on your level, it can be starting from an F to go to a C. It's the same exact story. Just substitute your name for my name, you for me. The principles are the same. So 2.5 years ago, I was a little bored in my fitness routine, and I decided that I wanted to do a triathlon, which was definitely out of my comfort zone because I've never done any kind of a race. Not a road race, not a little 3K, 5K, 10K, nothing, okay? So why would I think of doing a race that involves running, swimming, and biking? Some people might call that stupid. Whatever. That was my little midlife crisis. So I started training, and I started training like a maniac, to the letter, every single day. My race was going to be in June. I started January 1st. You know, I followed these things out of a book, and every single day I did exactly what it said to do. So my family notices that I'm kind of AWOL, like I'm training for this little race. All of a sudden, I'm never there. So my husband decides, I guess he better, it's, you know, if you can't beat him, join him. So he decides, well, I'm going to do it too. The person who hates exercise. Okay. So I said, yeah, sure. All right, whatever, honey. I was like, there's no way he's going to do it. He starts swimming with me, then he starts running. The man had never run 3 miles in his life, ever. We get to close to the race, which was in June, and it was what they call a sprint triathlon. So it was a 400-meter swim, a 12-mile bike ride, and a 3-mile run. On a flat course, flat like a pancake. Like you could roll, and I think your momentum would get you to the end. So we get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to go to the race start, because you have to get there at the ungodly hour. And we get in the car, and I'm nervous, like nervous with a capital N. My husband's driving, and he goes, "What's the matter, you okay?" And I said, yeah, you know my goal is, other than, yeah, I'd like to finish, I really don't want to drown in the swim. That is my primary goal. I just don't want to drown. I forgot to mention that when I was a teenager, I was a lifeguard. Okay, so it's not like I'm not comfortable in the water, but this was totally different. I was out of my comfort zone, right? This wasn't a pool, this was a lake. There were hundreds of other people flapping me in the eye, in the face while they were racing. Very different. I had read about it, I had done my research. People flip out in the swim. I thought that was gonna be me. That was my goal. He goes, "Don't be ridiculous. Just take it slow and you'll be fine." We get to the race. They open up the lake area for anyone who wants to practice. So as you guys can tell, since I used to be the front row type of student, they said, does anyone want to practice? And my butt was in that lake practicing. He goes, what are you doing? What are you doing? I said, I'm just getting used to the water, just testing it out. He said, it's water. It's just swimming. I said, all right, fine, remember, whatever. You do your thing, honey, I'll do mine. He almost drowned, okay? There was no practicing for my husband because he got it. He was good. It was only 400 meters, whatever, the ego. No need to practice. He almost drowned. So you know what? I didn't drown, obviously. And I finished, and I had a great time. And on the run, which is the last part of the race, I actually passed, because everyone has to put, this is so embarrassing, you get marked with your age on your leg, as if the whole thing isn't bad enough and stressful enough, so everyone can see your age. So I actually passed an 18-year-old on the run, which to me was better than not drowning. I couldn't believe it. I was like, that person must be injured. I don't know, because I'm not a fast runner. You know who passed me on the run? A 77-year-old. Okay? So when I tell you there were all ages, all shapes, all levels, everyone at this race, it was the most exciting thing ever. I would encourage it to anyone who wants to do something fun. Trust me, anyone can do it at that distance, whether you walk or not. 77! And by the way, that wasn't the oldest person. But here's what it taught me. Men are different than women, as evidenced by the fact that my husband almost drowned because he was too macho to practice, or he didn't think that drowning was a real concern. But I also learned about the importance of fitness and reaching a goal. And when you give yourself an F at your current fitness level, you can only get better. And if you had asked me 6 months before I did that race, would I become, look, you can't even see the smile, but I'm smiling because I'm like, I didn't drown. I never thought I would be able to do something like this in my life. So maybe for you it's not running a triathlon. Maybe it's just walking. Maybe it's doing a walkathon. Maybe it's walking every day. But I will tell you, when it comes to fitness, and to go back to the knocked up clip, in order to be a star in fitness, you have to do something, and you have to do it every day. And you have to mix it up, because the concept of muscle confusion is at the forefront of exercise physiology today. So our bodies are very smart. They're good machines, and they can outsmart us real fast. So if your thing is walking on a treadmill for 20 minutes, yes, it's better than nothing, but guess what happens after a certain period of time? Your body goes, 20 minutes? Pfft, this is nothing. And all of a sudden, that 20-minute walk kind of becomes like sitting down. So some days you want to walk. Some days you maybe want to walk at an incline. Some days you maybe want to walk a little faster. Some days you might want to jog walk. Some days you want to walk at an incline and then walk flat. Mix it up. Muscle confusion is huge. The other thing I learned from that training was a concept called HIT, which stands for high intensity interval training. It is huge now in sports physiology, and they are looking at everyone from weekend warriors to elite athletes and finding, and this is good news for everyone, you don't have to exercise an hour a day. It's nice if you do. That's great. But you can actually get better cardiovascular and weight loss benefits from exercising for a shorter period of time. Look how happy you look. You're like, yes. Shorter period of time, but more intense. So it's better for our hectic schedules, and it's also better for our metabolism and our heart. So there's a lot of exciting stuff to learn about exercise physiology, and I can't tell you that if I can do something like this, literally, you can do it too, okay? So after we talk about moving our bodies, what else do our bodies need? Well, I call it the trifecta perfecta, or the perfecta trifecta, however you want to say it. And the Kentucky Derby was today, right? So my favorite 2 minutes. But those are the three things that I think medically are the most imperative for good health and wellness and for reducing stress. And those are three fundamental functions that our bodies need to do, and we need to do them every day. We need to move, we need to nourish our bodies, and we need to rest our bodies. So, second test question. Close your eyes and give yourself a grade as to how well you've been sleeping for the last week. And if you had a weird week, you can make it the week before. Okay. Anyone give themselves an F? Oh boy, why? Oh, okay. So that's weird. But what about before then? D? Oh boy. Who else gave themselves an F? Why?
I gave it a D. I keep my TV on all night long. I don't know what my problem is.
Okay, been there, done that. Unless you're watching the reruns of me on Good Morning America. No. Turn it off. And I'll tell you something interesting about keeping the TV on. I don't know if everyone heard. She said she doesn't sleep well because she keeps the TV on. So last week, 2 weeks ago, I was speaking at the University of Miami at their medical school. And I took my daughter, Chloe, for a couple of days out of school, off-site learning, I called it. And it was the week of the Boston bombings. And because we were in a hotel, we were lying in bed with the TV on. And even though I work for ABC News, I had CNN on because it was late at night, and we fell asleep, right? This is what happens. You fall asleep, and the massive TV is right in front of your bed, shooting light and noise and all that kind of stuff. So I wake up at 1 o'clock in the morning. Now, you guys remember what was happening on Thursday night, the week of the Boston bombing at 1 o'clock in the morning, right? The Watertown shootout was going on in real time. So I get up to go to the bathroom, and this was not happening when I went to sleep. And I thought, the world is ending. The world is ending, and they're broadcasting it on television. I'm gonna have a front row seat. I was so confused. You know, when you wake up and you're not, at best, even if there's no TV on, sometimes you can't find your way to the bathroom. I see all this going on. I know it's about the Boston bombing. None of this was happening when we went to sleep. Okay, so guess what happened? You'd think I'd be smart enough to shut the TV off? No, because something was happening, and I didn't want to miss it. I proceeded to wake up at 1, at 3, at 5, and saw the entire night of the shootout with the MIT officer killed, the whole thing, as I was trying to sleep and dream, and it was bizarre and disturbing. So I can tell you 1,000 trillion%, don't fall asleep with the TV on. Anyone give themselves an A for sleep? B. Okay, why do you say B? How many hours? Okay, so 7 hours, that's good. I would agree with you. So B is great, okay? So, shocking fun fact about sleep. The average American adult needs 7 to 9 hours every night. Now, the parents in the room, what do we do with our kids, right? Oh, go to sleep, go to sleep. You need your sleep, you need your rest, especially with the younger kids. What about us? We need more than some children, depending on their age. And as we age, 100% we need more. But what are we conditioned to think in our society? Sleep is a luxury. Sleep is for lazy people. I have too much to do. I don't have time to go to sleep. Let me be very clear. If you don't make sleep a priority, your health will suffer. Either with headaches, fatigue, skin problems, gastrointestinal problems, immune problems, heart problems, hormonal problems. Get the point? It's important. It's very, very important. And we have done blood tests of people who are sleep deprived and their stress hormone levels shoot up. We have looked at people trying to lose weight and they sleep only 4 to 6 hours a night and then they're surprised that they can't lose weight. That's why. So if you, again, think of that trifecta, you have to commit, and I applaud you for doing it, to making sleep a priority. And let me tell you what kind of social loser I am. Because when my friends say, oh, you want to go out to dinner? I go, Not unless it's at 6:30. Because at 9 o'clock, I'm shutting it down. And I spent about a decade of my medical life delivering babies, and you guys who are moms in the room know what time babies are born. 3 in the morning, always. So the decade that I did that, I can tell you I didn't feel as well in my brain or in my body as I feel when I get 7 to 9 hours a night, even at the expense of other things. And let me tell you how to do that. Whatever's done, not done by 9 o'clock, let it go. No one's gonna die. It'll be there in the morning, but absolutely make it a priority. So it's different when you have an injury and that disrupts things, hopefully temporarily. The TV you can fix, and the 7 hours now, try to get an extra half hour. Imagine how you feel now, and then imagine how you'd feel with another hour. And by the way, you can't store it up on the weekend. Now, as you can tell, I'm very into sleep, so I actually did a sleep study. There I am, all strapped up. What a nightmare. Has anyone done a sleep study ever? Torture, right? Torture. But here's what I learned. Women are genetically programmed to be light sleepers. And in the sleep medicine world, we call that awakenings. I used to call that yell at my husband for snoring and waking me up. But it turns out that this is how we are programmed. So that if a child is crying or makes one peep, bam, we are up, ready to go, vertical and ready to launch into action. So awakenings, when you do a sleep study, can be normal, unless they're an excessive amount of time. And by the way, 30 minutes of awakenings a night is considered normal. To me, I found that horrifying, but that is technically normal. More than 30 minutes is not. Awakenings that waken you from sleep and do not permit you to go back to sleep is not normal. And if you're sleeping next to a spouse or someone who says that you're snoring so loudly that they fear like a piece of furniture might fall down because of the sound, you do need to get a sleep study to rule out obstructive sleep apnea, because that is a serious medical condition. And we went through it. It is torture, but believe it or not, I was able to sleep with all that stuff on me. It's just that you feel very, constrict. You don't look good. No, that is not pretty. That's why I wrote, it was not pretty. Oh, no, look at that. It was awful. Oh, yes, it was like all on your head and everything. But it's very, very important, okay? So understand that you can ask your healthcare provider if you try the little things like ambient temperature and earplugs, and trust me, I've tried it all. If all those things are not working, look at the medications you're on. Is that disturbing your sleep? Are you drinking coffee too late in the afternoon? Caffeine has a half-life of about 8 hours. So if you have a cup of coffee after 3 o'clock in the afternoon, it's gonna disturb your sleep. Alcohol disturbs your sleep. So look at the things that you can control. When you've exhausted all those things and you go for a sleep study, call me and we can commiserate, because I know it's torture. Okay, last big thing, fuel, how we nourish our bodies, all right? Just a quick show of hands so I don't recap too much. Who heard the last hour's speech? Some of us, okay. So I think that food, we have a massive problem with food in this country, massive problem. And it's not a coincidence that 2/3 of the country is overweight or obese, because look at our food supply. It's not what it was 20 years ago or 40 years ago or 60 years ago, and it's not what it is in other parts of the world where they don't have this obesity, okay? So part of that is not under our control, but part of it is. And in my book, both books of mine, which actually I was happy to see are outside on the table, I say for all of us, male, female, young, old, doesn't matter, we should eat from the farm and not the factory. Now, sometimes that's logistically feasible and sometimes it's not. My daughter, who's over there, say hi, there she is. She is an ice hockey player. So we spend 8 months a year on the road every weekend, traveling all over the Northeast and to Canada. And when we stop on the road, what in the world is there to eat when you pull off? To me, like a Subway is like a gourmet meal when I'm on the road, because anything else is not from the farm, right? It's from the factory. So sometimes you have no choice. But when you do have a choice, I think that it's about making small, very impactful changes. And I want to tell you a story about a patient of mine who had, and this requires some math, so get your math brains on for a second. She had an experience that I talk about in my second book that I can promise every single person in this room is the real deal, and it will work for everyone here because it's not a gimmick. Okay? Any diet that you hear about on TV, even on my show, on Good Morning America, a lot of them, almost all of them are effective in the short term, right? Because they're all usually low-calorie plans. The key is sustaining it and keeping weight off and keeping the weight where you want it to be. So I had a patient who was 48 years old. She was 5'4". She weighed 258 pounds. High blood pressure. So it was the first time she was seeing me, and as I said in the beginning, since I take care of the whole woman, I was going head to toe. What do you eat? What do you do for a living? What kind of job do you have? You know, what other medications are you on? Blah, 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 all this stuff. And she says, I hate working out. Okay, join the club. So does most of the country, right? So rather than try to say, oh, why don't you run a triathlon with me next year? I said, okay, I get it. Tell me about what you eat. And she goes, well, you know, I work, so, you know, she has like a very erratic, kind of very typical eating pattern. She eats little breakfast, she grabs something at her desk for lunch, and she eats something random for dinner. I said, all right, well, that doesn't sound like 255 pounds. What are you drinking? Lesson. Look for the low-hanging fruit, and I don't mean the literal fruit. Look for the area in what you're consuming, in what you're putting in your mouth, and look for the easiest thing to put in the bullseye target of what you're going to go on a seek and destroy mission and change today. Now, if you hate pasta, and I tell you to start eating whole wheat pasta, that's going to be a hard sell. If you hate broccoli and I tell you to put green on your plate, that's going to be a hard sell. Everyone drinks beverages, right? So she says, I love coffee. And I said, so do I. I have 4 cups every day. And she said, I have 6. I said, all right, well, that's not bad. There's actually some new research that drinking 5 or more cups of coffee a day reduces prostate cancer in men and reduces breast cancer in women, right? So I was like happy. So I said, what do you put in your coffee? You ready for this? Well, half and half. Okay, so do I. She goes, a lot of half and half. I said, what else? And she said, and sugar. I said, how much sugar? 1 to 2 teaspoons. Okay, so here comes the math. She drinks 6 cups a day. I said, all right, let's say that you're putting in, this is ballpark, by the way. I didn't measure this out. It's not scientific. Let's say you're putting in 100 calories of half and half in each cup. That's 600 calories a day. And let's say you're putting in 1 heaping teaspoon of sugar, and maybe that's another 100 calories per cup. Now you're up to 1,200 calories a day in your coffee. I said, you know how many calories are in a pound? Who knows in this room how many calories are in a pound? How much? 3,500, exactly, okay? 1,200 calories a day she's drinking in her coffee. Let's just round it up and say, roughly, every 2 days, that's a pound. So you know what I said to her? Here's what I want you to do. I want you to pour the biggest cup of coffee first thing in the morning, and I want you to have it exactly like you want it. With me, mine's like half and half with a little coffee. That's how I drink my coffee, so light it doesn't even look like coffee. I said, if that's the way you want it, that's the way I want you to have it. And put your sugar in it and enjoy it. 1 cup a day. Then you have a couple of options. Either go cold turkey for the other 5, drink water. That would be aggressive, right? That would be hardcore, pretty Rambo move. Or You want to have your cake and eat it too? Have your coffee. Go to 1% milk. Go to skim milk. I hate to recommend chemical sweeteners, but right now we're just talking about the calories. Put a sweetener in there. Let's do the math. Every 2 days, that's a pound. So let's say, again, we're going to build in a cushion. That's 3 pounds a week, 12 pounds a month. You're going to come back and see me in 6 months because I want to check your blood pressure and see if you're closer to menopause. That's over 50 pounds in coffee. She goes, I got it. I couldn't believe I could do all that math that quickly because it was the end of the day, but I think I pulled out my calculator. She comes back in 6 months, she's lost 41 pounds without trying. No exercise. The woman hates exercise. She's not gonna be the picture of the triathlon, like, yay, I didn't drown. She hates it. But she cared enough about her high blood pressure, which was directly coming from her obesity, and she didn't feel well. So she made this little mini change. And I just gave you a story about coffee, but if you are drinking fruit juice, if you're drinking iced tea, if you're drinking lemonade, if you're drinking soda, even if you're drinking diet soda, that is not fuel for your body. And it is the easiest way to drop pounds and keep them off, just by changing what you're drinking. Forget about the food right now. That's a whole different level. If you want to take it to that level, there's more than enough time, and you can do that, and you can be even better. But talk about low-hanging fruit, right? 50 pounds in 6 months by changing your coffee habit? That's a big deal. So I want you guys to think about that when you think about making minuscule changes. It doesn't have to hurt. When you do that math, it becomes really, really powerful, right? Think like you're balancing your checkbook, only this is going to go in the right direction and you're going to look and feel better, okay? I talk about something in my second book called a 5-day, 2-day eating plan. I don't call it a diet because I don't believe in diets for the reasons I just said. I believe that when we exist day to day, we have to have pleasure in eating. We as a society don't do that as much as other parts of the world do. In Ayurvedic medicine, I saw a lot of Ayurvedic Indian tables out there. I'm a big believer in Ayurveda. They don't speak when they eat because they savor the process. But we do it the opposite, right? That's our family time. That's our time to talk and connect. And I'm not saying one's right and one's wrong, but there are different approaches to eating, and I think we should enjoy it. I am completely against depriving yourself and making eating a miserable experience. You should enjoy what you're eating. But if you shift your mindset and you say, I want to make this fuel for my body, what is this doing for my body? I think you're going to get to a very different place than if you just eat the first thing that's in front of you. If I took this plant home and I poured diet soda on it for a month, and I took that plant home and I poured water on it, that one's not going to look so good at the end of the month, okay? Our bodies are over 50% water, not over 50% diet soda or orange juice or lemonade, and we need to remember that. So when I talk in my book about a 5-day, 2-day eating plan, it's something I've done, my kids have done, I have 2 teenagers, my husband's done, I've had patients whose husbands have done this plan. It is an eating plan that involves eating in a very strict, healthy way, Monday through Friday when we're all on the grind. Working, going to school, running around like crazy people that we all do during the week. And on the weekends, eat what you want. You have a barbecue, eat the burger. You know, you have a sporting game, eat the hot dog. Tailgate, eat it. Drink it, whatever you want. What the thing that you can't give up, do it on the weekends. What will happen? Every Monday, you reset. You restart. You get a clean slate. And a couple of things happen. After a course of the year, math wins, always. The laws of physics apply. Okay, so it's calories in versus calories out. The calories you're putting in those 5 days will be less than the calories you put in on those 2 days. 5 days beats 2 days. It's the first thing that happens. Second thing that happens occurs up here. And that's what happens behaviorally when our bodies stop feeling that high that we get from all of those simple sugars and salts and fats that come in a lot of the unhealthy foods that we are surrounded by every day. And those spikes in our brain are addictive. And so after a while, when you feel how incredible you feel on those 2 days, you won't want to go back to, insanity on Saturday and Sunday. When I started this 7 years ago, my husband's also a doctor, and so it makes for some really interesting, shall we say, home discussions. And he came home and I said, I'm going to start a new diet. And he goes, why? You don't need to lose weight. I said, it's not about weight loss. And I really believe it's not about the number on the scale. It's what you're putting in your body and how you feel. And I was eating a lot of bread, a lot of carbs. I said, I want to try this diet because I want to start eating more fruits and vegetables. I hardly ate anything green ever. He goes, I cannot believe you're falling for that. I said, okay, we'll see. Watch and learn, Buster. So he proceeded to tease me for weeks. And I lost a couple of pounds, which were probably water weight, but that wasn't the best thing that happened. I did, in fact, start eating more vegetables. And then he started it, just like the triathlon. Are you guys just seeing a trend here? So he started it, and we have done it for 7 years. And when I started doing it every single Saturday morning, remember Fred Flintstone with the whistle? Remember the cartoon? That was me on Saturday morning for the bagel store. I was like, oh my God, it's Saturday. I get to have a bagel. For months. Finally, one Saturday came, and I was like, I'm not craving that bagel anymore. It happens. It happens at a different time for everyone. Some people it takes longer than others, but it does happen. So I encourage you to try it. It is very easy. You can eat unlimited amounts of any food because when you're putting pure, clean fuel in your body, you don't have to look at portions. You eat till you're full. And it's real life. So my college patients do it, my teenage kids do it, men can do it at work, women can do it at work, you can do it if you're home, you can do it if you're traveling. It's just a smart way to eat, and it is sustainable and effective. And I talk about all the little tips about it in my book. This was meant to be the beginning of the conversation. I want to really applaud everyone here for making the commitment to reduce stress in your lives, to put yourself on a different plane of health and wellness. Yes, we have a crisis with a lot of things that have to do with our health right now. Some of it has to do with our healthcare system. Some of it has to do with what we're doing to ourselves. But every single person in this room can leave today and make one little change, whether it's about the way you rest, whether it's about the way you move, or whether it's about the way that you fuel your body. And it can spread like a movement and not only make you better and feel better and look better, but it can lower your stress. And then hopefully the next time you go to see a doctor, it'll be to celebrate your health and wellness and not be interrogated about what you're doing or not doing. And it'll be a much, much better experience. I'm always happy to communicate with people on Twitter at DRJ Ashton. I have a website too that I'm happy to get questions on. And as I said, I have 2 books out there that I hope will, again, continue this conversation for you. One's for teenage girls, one's for everyone else. And I just want to thank you all for coming. I'm happy to take any questions.
Dr. Ashton, thank you so much. And your books are available outside as well. Do we have a couple quick questions for Dr. Ashton? Is there something that somebody wants to talk about starting today on the right track? I can tell you that I used to drink 5 or 6 cans of Diet Mountain Dew a day. And when people said that, I said, it's diet. And actually, a health professional asked me to stop cold turkey.
Wow.
From here on, you're never having, and on the 3rd day, I was sick. I was sick like I was on heroin. And I realized, and that's what made me realize what a horrible thing it was. And I haven't had any diet soda in over a year.
Good for you.
All right, we've got a question over here.
Dr. Ashton, what do you think about that sensor? Do you believe in that?
So one of these natural sweeteners, there's stevia or Truvia. That's what you're talking about? Oh, it's the weight loss shake? So I've had some patients who have tried it, and there are, when you talk about herbal weight loss supplements or products, it's very important to understand that natural does not always mean safe. And I want to give you some examples. Cocaine comes from a natural plant. Marijuana comes from a natural plant. The heart medication digitalis comes from a natural plant, right? So I think we all have to be careful when we hear these things marketed, because the FDA does not have to police their safety before they come to market, only after they've been on the shelf. Okay, so they are not subject to the same scrutiny, and we know that there are even problems with FDA-approved medications, right? We hear about it all the time. So there are at least the potential for the same, if not more, in supplements that are not scrutinized before they come to market. A lot of the weight loss supplements that are natural have herbs in them like ephedra or mawang or taurine, which is an amino acid, which absolutely increase your metabolism, okay? But cocaine increases your metabolism also. So when you take those supplements, you can have high blood pressure, you can have liver failure, because a lot of them are metabolized through the liver. The drug ephedrine, which was part of fen-phen and is always part of a diet pill, it is still prescribed today. It's not illegal, by the way, but it is dangerous. And aspirin can be dangerous. So I think, look, are there certain people I did research in Pittsburgh with morbid obese patients for a year, and we're talking about morbidly obese, 600-700 pounds and above. And for those people, they need everything. They need surgery, they need medication, they need fat absorption blockers, they need exercise, they need diet, they need hypnosis, acupuncture, every single thing, because they need help coming from every direction. For the average American who may need to lose anywhere from 10 to even 60 pounds, I think that until we learn otherwise, to try and do it with any type of external supplement, even if it's prescription medication, is not worth the risk. I'm not saying it wouldn't be effective, but to what end? And if you lose 50 pounds and your liver shuts down, I don't know that you're in a better position, right? So I think we really, really have to be careful when we reach for things that are promoted online or whatever. You have to, that would be a perfect example of going either to a pharmacist or a healthcare provider and saying, look at these ingredients. I learned about Sensa, it's called, right, from one of my patients who said, what do you think of this? And I said, I've never heard of it. And I sat at my computer and I looked it up and I read the ingredients and I said, I would stay away from it because I think the risks outweigh the benefits. I think, again, try everything. Go for the low-hanging fruit first, which is your beverages. Take a look at what you're drinking. On the weekends, if you want to have an alcoholic beverage, one or two, especially as a woman, I have to tell you, every single month we learn more and more about the breast cancer risk for all women with alcohol, any alcohol. Again, it's not a black or white thing. It's not an all or none thing. But if you want to have it on the weekends, remember my concept about the weekends. We don't want you to live, like you're in a bubble. Have it on the weekends. If you want to have your treat on the weekends, have it on. If you are a dessert person, have it on the weekends. Monday through Friday, be strict. Watch your portions, watch the liquids, and watch what you're eating. Read the labels. If you're eating something that comes out of a package, read the labels.
One more question. Ron, am I? Okay, great.
As women get older and if they're eating healthy and they're working out and so forth, but it's harder for them to lose weight because I guess their metabolism's slowing down, what do you recommend?
So for someone like you who's like 25, look, it happens to all women, right? And every single day in my medical practice, I have a perimenopausal woman who says, what is going on? I am doing the same activity, I'm eating the same, and something is happening here. That is a fact, and a lot of it has to do with dropping testosterone levels. what I tell my patients, and I say it on Good Morning America, I say it in my practice, I say it to anyone on the street, it's the unfortunate reality of life as women get closer to menopause. You have to do more and eat less to maintain. If you are talking about losing, you have to adjust those sides accordingly, and it is not fair. It's not in our favor, okay? And it is not gonna be the same math or physics that worked for you 10 years prior. I hope my daughter's listening. It's coming soon to a theater near you. But, you know, that doesn't mean we can't outsmart our bodies. We can, it just takes a little more strategizing. So if you're not at menopause yet and you're in your 40s, now is the time to start kicking that up into high gear, because think of it like a marble going off the edge. The more momentum you have, the better you will be, because there will be changes when, I mean, it's
All right. Dr. Jennifer Ashton, thank you so much.
Thank
Her
you.
books are available outside, and we really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.